You're obviously a well-known blade, but how did you come to spotting Hartley Whitney?
Moved to Hartley. I moved around a little bit in Reading, Kingston, various other places. So I moved to Hartley, been in Hartley about 18 years. In terms of the club, well, I'm pretty new to it in the big scheme of things, at least in terms of my length of time in the village and the length of the time the club's been around. I think the first game I attended was probably the Daventry FA Cup game back in 2012, 2013. Came to a few games thereafter, sort of in and out with a few buddies. In terms of getting the bug and attending more games and actually getting stuck into it in terms of home and away, I think it was really 2016-17. So I guess I'm in my sort of fifth season of avid following. And after that, it was kind of all in. So season ticket, at away days, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, I suppose, like I said, big scheme of things, I'm a newbie in terms of fully involved as a spectator, a volunteer, and a club committee member, part-time barman, and all that other stuff that us volunteers do. So yeah.
So how did you go from being a fan to being the PA?
What basically happened, and I can't actually remember when it was. I think it was a midweek game. Luke was running. I think he was having to run the burger bar, as all chairmen do on a Tuesday night, and because somebody wasn't around, and so he was kind of tearing it around with his butcher's jacket on, as it were, and yeah, he kind of collared me and said, "Oh, can you help me out? Or I've got a favour," and obviously you always say yes, and yeah, he just said, "Oh, can you read the teams out over the tannoy before the game?" And I was like, and I thought, "Oh yeah, that seems fair enough. Doesn't sound particularly difficult." And I'd obviously heard him doing it before, and Jerry, the two benches on the veranda, Jerry used to stand there and kind of shout out the goal scorers and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, I can do that. So, I mean, I think that's how it started. What I didn't realise was that, having read the names out, you then got to bloody concentrate for 90 minutes because you've got to keep an eye on the goal scorers and the goal scorer times and the substitutions and the half-time board going up and how many additional minutes, and all these things have to be read out. I think these are league rules to a certain extent. And then you've got 50-50 announcements, and obviously recently we've had code announcements, you've got drinking rules, and yeah, I mean, more often than not, somebody's parked in the Scouts car park, so you got to read out a bloody number plate and get somebody to come and move the Honda Civic. And yeah, I mean, it's I'm making it sound like a really difficult job, but it went from being a simple favour to like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, I mean, I think for that initial kind of waffling through that night, I've sort of managed to hone my skills, let's say, got my mistakes down to a reasonable ratio. Hardest part of the job is my comrades or my fans who endeavour to make it a harder thing to do than it actually is on a Saturday afternoon, which you've probably got wind of. And then obviously you've got the main problem, which is whilst I'm trying to stay focused on top of my game, you're being plied with alcohol from Freddie and Lee and Phil and all the other people, all the other hoodlums I stand with. So I tell them every week, I say to them, boys, I said, look, I love a pint, as you know, but I've got a job to do. I've got to be professional. So just leave the beers, have a drink at the end of the game.
How much research does go into being a PA?
Yeah, a fair bit, actually. And it will probably surprise people, to be fair, because whilst on the surface, I just look like some semi-sober idiot waffling through the match. I do actually put a bit of time in. So I normally start with the Hartley programme, to be fair. So I look at Luke's notes and Miller's notes, and I lift a bit of copy from there. I'll then go to the visiting team's homepage, pull off a little bit of data from there, or see what's recent results generally and anything interesting. There's stuff, if there's any little nuggets, like they've got players that used to play for Hartley or anybody involved, or famous names associated with the club, so I'm trying to lift stuff like that. So so I take all that. I think it was Paul, was it? They had a player that was a contestant on Love Island, so little nuggets like that. And then the biggest challenge, as again, which is a bit of a running joke around the club, is obviously pronunciation of players' names, which isn't without its challenge. I mean, to be fair, I can't exactly say too much with my bloody surname, but yeah, some of the when you get the team sheet off Jerry or Phil or Elaine, it's always handed over with a kind of, oh, look at number 8 or look at number 10 and sort of thing. You're there going, oh my God. But I, no, to be fair, I do, generally speaking, I have, in extreme circumstances, sort out a committee member, or because I'm in the boardroom doing this at the time, so I find somebody and I guess, look, I really just don't want to offend anybody. How do you pronounce this name? So I will go that extra mile.
When you go to other grounds on away days, do you take notes? I think Elena mentioned a funny moment or a weird moment at Staines.
The honest answer is actually no, I don't, but my fellow supporters do. As soon as we get there and the home club PA says anything or announces anything or reads a name out, I get this kind of, oh, he's better than you, can we get him down to the memorial ground? But yeah, I mean, Staines was, it's a good one actually. It's well remembered by Elaine, the chap at Staines. Yeah, he kind of balls it up big time. We were 2-0 up at the break. Second half started and they, Staines came out, it's like a completely different team, that sort of cliche, and they were all over us and blah, blah, blah. So they pulled one back, so 2-1, equalised for 2-2. The point at which they equalised, their PA, announcer guy, just, I don't know, it's like he won the lottery or something. I don't know, just a completely over-exuberant celebration. Did the real kind of booming kind of WWE type announcement, and we were sitting there going, what the heck, this is a bit over the top. But anyway, they went 3-2 up, at which point he, rather stupidly as it turned out, sort of made the comment along the lines of, oh, Staines lead 3-2 and Hartley were 2-0 up, sort of thing. And you're sitting there going, what the frick, like this. Now, sadly for him, he was in this little room and we were sat at the back of the stand and he was kind of behind us, behind the glass screen. And yeah, we equalised basically. So when we pulled it back to 3-3 with about 10 minutes to go, and he was kind of, oh, 3-3, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I think Ty put a penalty away. And then Cookie got a bit of a sort of, I think it was like sort of a little bounce or a deflected shot. I can't quite remember. Anyway, net, we won 5-3, but it was piss funny because he'd gone from Mr. Exuberant to Mr. Subdued, Mr. Very Timid. And obviously, because we were sat at the back, so when we scored, we were like rapping on the glass like this, and let's call it friendly abuse. And fair play to him at the end. He kind of like sort of doffed his cap, as it were, as if to say, "Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have said that." And note to self: don't give it the Billy Big Balls till the final whistle, basically. So you never know what'll happen. The one we always chuckled about was purely because he was a bit of a geezer. Was Kings Langley, which was again a couple of years ago, and they had like it's like a mobile DJ, let's call it, outside the clubhouse. So he was a bit of a wide boy, sort of bellboy, and but then he kind of, whilst he was a little bit entertaining, he called us Harry Potter instead of Hartley Whitney, and you're just like,
a bit now.
Seriously, yeah, time to go home. I think.
What would be your go-to song?
Go-to song, North Country Boy by the Charlton. It's the only song that's on there every week. I try and put a playlist together which is somehow relative to something. So when the example was when Merthyr came to Hartley, so I did an all Welsh playlist. So it's Tom Jones and Catatonia, Manic Street Preachers, Shirley Bassey, Shakin' Stevens, Feeder, Super Furry Animals, and then I also had the theme tune to Ivor the Engine in there. Yeah. But our beloved chairman told me to take it out. He thought he didn't think it was too sensitive. So yeah, that got hiked at the 11th hour. But yeah, you try and make it interesting for home and away fans alike. So.
What's been your fondest away day?
Probably Poole 2 seasons ago. Listen to the session with Tyler. I think he mentioned that game as well. So I mean, it was the first game at step 3. Yeah, I mean, it's just a good day out. We got there. We had a good set of lads on the coach. Got there like 1:30ish. Piled into their clubhouse. There was hardly anybody in there, so the Poole fans hadn't turned up. So we kind of overtook the clubhouse, and they had a slightly surreal kind of happy hour where it was £2 a pint, and then at 2:00 it changed to like £2.20 a pint. So it just some reason it's like, oh, they get another 10 pints in sort of thing. So it was all a bit boozy, but I mean, but all good spirits. And then we had some good sort of banter and chants on the stands at one end. Nick Chiardini was playing in the day, and I think one of the lads, I think the line was, I think the chant was, we've got Nick Chiardini, he eats all the paninis. And that was that kind of stuck that as a classic, Hartley Terrace classic. But in terms of the one I probably would have to share is Rushden and Diamonds. And as soon as I mentioned that, Luke and Elaine and Freddie, if they're watching this or when they're watching this, would probably chuckle. And the reason I would share that one is in terms of making a lasting impression on me. The reason being that the end of the game, we lost 2-0, but it was another coach journey, so probably clarifies what I'm about to say. But at the end of the game, we were in the clubhouse, and I got to the bar, 2 pints of Kronenberg. What I didn't know is that one of the players had come in and popped his kit bag down. It was literally right behind me. Yeah. As I turned, I fell, literally tripped over his bag with these 2 full pints of Kronenberg, and like any good drinker say, I'm not going to spill it, but I kind of went down, and my knee took all the impact on the clubhouse floor. So, which obviously when you've had a few, you don't really think about it. But I mean, I always use this line, as with all sports-related injuries, because we were spectating, not playing. But I woke up in the Sunday morning when the alcohol had stopped working, and my knee was like the size of an elephant's thigh, and it was ridiculously painful. So I ended up at the doctor's at the hospital, and it was a sprained LCL, which was quality, if for no reason other than it was a better injury than I ever had playing. So,
is that where the famous Freddie Morris photo comes from? The one I've heard a lot about.
Yeah, well, normally when you stop at a supermarket on the way home after the match, most of us get off and buy beer, and if anybody dares buy food on their own head, be it. But Freddie just got into a thing of buying random stuff, like inappropriate in supermarkets, which he'll know exactly what I'm talking about, or indeed not getting off the bus, and then when we all got back on the bus having a little surprise, he was doing a little Buddha impression on the back seat of the coach.
What's been the biggest change of Hartley Whitney?
Well, I mean, on the pitch, obviously you've got a better quality of football, which again goes without saying. So the team's improved, or Millers has improved the squad, so which is great. The quality of football is better, obviously, so, which goes without saying. But off the pitch, I think the club, I think they've taken a good approach to the commercial side of things. I know Millers is trying to sort of lead the charge with being a bit more savvy and a bit more astute off the pitch. Obviously they've got the investment from Boss and Terry, which is great, and that obviously helps. But I guess flipping the question, I mean, the nice thing is even where the club is operating at, there's still bare bones. The club is still evident in terms of a semi-professional grassroots non-league club existing on a shoestring and relying on volunteers. And like I said earlier, I mean, Luke was flipping burgers. I mean, you go to the clubhouse on any day, or club rather, he's up fixing the guttering or climbing on the roof, fetching balls, and Elaine's running the tea hut, and Noakes is fixing the toilets. I mean, it's that type of club. So, and there's a lot more people than that, obviously, that get involved and do stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of change, but there's some constants, and I think those constants are the things that keep everybody going back and loving the club.
You're saying those constants is the heart of Hartley Whitney?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been debated before on the forum, and I've definitely had conversations with people in the clubhouse about this whole, should we continue to position us or call ourselves a village team when we're operating at a level which isn't really commensurate with village football? I mean, I think as long as from my point of view, as long as the club can retain some of those core values, then I personally, I think regardless of what level you're at, that's kind of critical to the culture and ethos of the club, and it's part of what makes it very, very appealing to be a supporter.
How impressive is it that a village can compete with, cities?
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think, yes, it is impressive. I mean, it's are we punching above our weight? I'm not particularly sure I ever like that phrase, but I mean, the reality is we are where we are on merit. Can we go any higher? Then that then it becomes a question of investment and infrastructure and space to make the necessary changes.
Is it kind of a nice badge of honour that people do not wrongly probably look down at you? I know when we drew Dagenham and Redbridge, a lot of their fans were calling us a pub team.
Kind of like the anonymity that comes with it, if I'm being very honest. It's a little bit of a badge of honour, I think. I mean, but again, that's never going to change, is it? I mean, we're not suddenly going to become Hartley Whitney City or whatever. I mean, I always refer to it as beautiful downtown Hartley Whitney instead of Bramall Lane. But maybe there's more to link our two teams than I thought. But yeah. So,
would you say you are a bit like Gary Sinclair from Sheffield United as a PA?
A little bit. I mean, as far as I can remember, I haven't been there for a few years because I've been down here too much. But I think he's normally pitch side to read the teams out. I think, isn't he? So I think he still does that. So I guess there's a little similarity there. We're both hugely professional, undertaking our duties and concentrating hard on the job in hand. He's probably. Yeah, I get some of the home fans sort of saying I should liven it up a bit because you go to some games. Staines guy was probably a bit too extreme. I'm probably a little bit more deadpan, a little bit more neutral maybe. I don't tend to sort of big up. I usually get a few little sort of stabs in during the pre-match chit chat, especially if the visiting team's been hammered the week before. I'll probably pay a good reference to that, or if we've beaten them previously, I'll reference that. So, but I tend to be fairly serious.
Over the years of Hartley Whitney, who's been your standout player?
Probably Paul Hodges. And I think probably a lot of people that have watched the game in recent times would talk about Paul as well, because he's a nice lad as well, nice bloke rather, good fun. And he used to bring his guitar on the coach for the away days, for the old sing-songs on the way back. So he was good value for that side of things as well. But yeah, genuinely just a really, really good player to watch. But aside from that, I mean, I think probably the one thing I would say, so my son, my son plays for the under-16s, I think you met Finley up there, so under-16 junior team, and he's a keeper. So I think by default, the two of us kind of be interested in the Hartley goalies. But I think if you look at the last three main keepers between the sticks for us, I think with Struds and Adam Dubois, and then obviously Luke at the moment, I think is an exceptional keeper. I think within those three players over the last 4 or 5 seasons, you've probably had some of the better or more consistent performers in a Hartley shirt. And obviously, in my mind, because Finn plays there, I mean, I maybe know more about it than I might do otherwise, but it's a critical position, obviously. And I think we'd be fortunate to have some exceptionally good goalkeepers. And they're game changers at the end of the day. So probably Luke at the moment. I like Stowey as well. I think Nathan's an excellent captain as well, so performer. So I think he was terrific in the Dagenham game as well. So and there's a lot to like about Miller's squad as well, because there's obviously some experience in there. I like the look of the youngsters, Dom and Anis. They're very promising. I hope they hang around. I'm sure the team can develop them. They're nice lads as well. Miller's coaches are under 16, so he's put those two along with him a few times for the sessions. They're good lads, help with the drills. Maybe take it a little bit too seriously. Dom nobbled my son during one drill, which put him on crutches for a week and out of action for a Saturday match. But apart from that, they're good fellas. I think probably Hodges over the time.
How important is that kind of like youth connection with the first team and the youth team with your son being, and how important is that to like the ethos of Hartley Whitney?
It's important. I mean, I think there's maybe a little bit more work to be done in terms of how we more easily take some of our blossoming junior talent, let's say sort of 14s, 15s, 16s, and get them a bit closer to the senior club, whether it be the youth team or the under 23s. I'm not sure that particular part of the filter for those teams is quite where it should be, but that's a personal opinion. Future players at the end of the day. I mean, I'd love nothing more than to see Finley in the Hartley shirt.
you obviously mentioned Dagenham and Redbridge there, and you've mentioned
Yeah.
the cup run and a few times. What was it like? Obviously, because most people, well, not most people, I was in a small other minority where didn't see what it was like at the clubhouse. What was it like at the clubhouse?
That was good. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we had so we bit of to and fro during the week. I mean, it seemed like a bit of a heavy lift to actually be able to screen the game. The result was disappointing, but I mean, I don't think it's been well documented by others that we probably should have come away with a more positive result and either second crack at it, or I don't know what the rules were at that time. Maybe it was straight to pens. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, maybe should have come back and been able to see ourselves through to the next game. But the atmosphere in the clubhouse was good. I mean, it was very British at the end of the game when the whistle went. We all kind of sat and did a very polite sort of round of applause, as if seemed like the right thing to do. And then it sort of got a bit more boisterous towards the end. Well, not towards the end, but sort of about an hour and a half later, I guess, when some of the players came back. I think Birdie was the first back. When he came in, I was behind the bar, so we had the bell. We were like this kind of stuff, making them feel welcome. And then I think Noakesy and Kimbers came in, then Millers came in, so it was kind of ding, 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 ding like this. And just like a round of applause, really pleased. I mean, just chuffed the bits with them. I think they played really, really well. Should have got more out of it. Yeah, shame couldn't be at the match, but it was the next best thing, so no particular problem with that. And to be fair, even if, I think a few of us said, even if, I mean, you were fortunate enough to get there, but I think even if they said like, the 6 of you that could go, or 8 of you, well, you kind of want to sit and watch it with your people that you normally watch the matches with anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I was watching the cup on, was it Sunday, Marine, or Saturday? I can't remember which day it was. Marine versus Spurs, and you're there because I think they're a step down from us, aren't they? So you're looking at it, and they've got the cameras there, they've got the commentators talking to the chairman and all this kind of stuff, and I was sitting there going, wouldn't it have been lovely if that had been Hartley, if that had been the BBC down here and they were filming us playing against a big team, or even Spurs, or anybody else.
Last question.
Okay.
It's a bit of a Sophie's choice moment. Gun to your head, Sheffield United or Hartley Whitney?
I've probably got in terms of order of teams, shall we call it, my son's team probably comes first, or it does come first. Obviously, currently, as I said, playing at under 16. So I will answer the question, but I'll say something else first. I'm trying to think about my answer while I'm waffling on. But yeah, I mean, I've got to say, watching the youngsters play, even at from 9s, 10s, moving through the age groups, pitch sizes, goal sizes, ball sizes, 7-a-side, 9-a-side, 11-a-side, etc., etc. I've never ever had a moment doing that on a Saturday morning where I've not felt anything other than just sheer exuberance and enjoyment, and as a coach and as a parent. So yeah, I don't think in the world of football there's much that could come close to that. And also, that's only too kind of hippie-ish, the sort of positive impact it's had on my life in terms of being involved in a club, getting to know everybody at the club, working with Luke, helping out, doing stuff. Saturday afternoons, whether they're home or away, are just tremendous fun, with a whole bunch of folk, most of whom I've probably named already. So I'd probably have to go Hartley, if I'm being very honest. But that said, I mean, all 3 teams were important, basically, but probably my son's team, then Hartley, then the Blades. I mean, I think you and I and everybody else, I mean, ideally we just want to get back to watching, playing, coaching, whatever we may do, without the current restrictions in place. That's probably the most critical thing right now. But yeah, if you're looking to pull the trigger, then I'll go with Hartley.
I see. I was going to ask if you'd be Wilder or Millers, but I think you'd probably pick yourself.
Well, I'm probably looking at more like Wilder. Definitely not Millers, at least with the hair anyway. But it's starting to grow back, thankfully. After that.
You mentioned that is with this lockdown, is it time for Millers to cut his hair off? Or
yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw that. Or
has he kept himself?
He was supposed to do it. Well, he was supposed to do it on Boxing Day a few years ago, and he didn't. And I think, I can't quite remember what the story was. I think the game was cancelled, so he was going to have it done after the match, and then the game didn't happen or something. So he was supposed to have it locked off. But no, I can't really see him. I can't really see him with a baldy head.
Yeah.
I can't see him looking like anything other than the Messiah, basically, because it just sort of suits him, doesn't it?
Well, thank you for the interview, and thank you for giving up your time.
Yeah, that's all right, buddy.